Hey guys, so I posted on my personal Facebook page and in a couple of groups that I admin that I'm going to be doing these videos and put out a call for any questions that anybody wants answering. And I've got two sets of questions that I want to cover in today's Freedom Friday video because I think they're both related to freedom in a lot of ways. And the first set of questions was from Kelly Crawford. The first thing is how to overcome the fear that your story is not worth telling, and also how to plan an easy to follow schedule, and finally the main steps to follow in writing any book. I'm going to circle back to those shortly. I also had questions from Connie Monero, hey Connie, that said, what makes you an expert? Are you a publisher, a literary agent, or a successful mainstream author? Well, yes, I am a publisher. I started out by working with a New York publisher for a couple of years. That's a publisher that now only works with magazines and doesn't do books. But I did 2 years doing the internal book layouts and editing for them. And from there I went on to editing individually with clients and helping them self-publish, and obviously self-publishing my own books. And from there I've gone on to publishing other people's books, and no, they're not all family. So yes, I am a publisher. No, I am not a literary agent, and I wouldn't say I'm a successful mainstream author. I am an indie author. Personally, I've written books that have sold into the tens of thousands, not much more. I've written books for clients that have sold more, and I have at least one client that's earned over $1 million from the book that I wrote for him. So no, I'm not a mainstream author, but do you know what? I'm an old hand. I'm not an expert. I am an old hand. And if you don't want to have my help, that's perfectly fine too. So I'm doing these videos mostly for the people that know me and that ask me questions on a regular basis, just so that I'm not constantly answering the same question. Excuse me, I have an itchy foot. But it's perfectly fine if you don't want to listen to me. You know what? If money is the part that interests you, I'll put a link down below. I have a friend that I wrote books with, Paul Democritou. He'll talk to you about money, so you can head over there instead. Okay. Now back to Kylie's questions. How do you overcome the fear that your story is not worth telling? Well, this is it's the flip side of Connie's question about what makes you an expert, and it's this whole thing that the gatekeepers of the publishing industry say your book has to be deemed print-worthy by somebody else. Well, do you know what? Those days are gone. I can guarantee you your story is worth telling, and I'm a publisher and I'm giving you permission to write it, so it's fine. You don't need somebody to tell you it's good enough. If it's inside you and it's a message that you want to share, it's good enough in itself to be turned into a book. Now, the problem that you might be having, or based on your other questions, is because you don't understand how to turn it into a book, and that comes down to understanding story structure and planning it out, which we'll be covering in other videos. But basically, do a quick search on story structure or hit me up with more specific questions. Once you understand the things that your book needs to be complete and the parts of your story that you need to tell and in what order to make it a satisfying reader experience, then you can take the story that you have and you can turn it into something that is a marketable product for an audience. How to plan an easy to follow schedule? Our first thing to say is to get a weekly calendar and block out your existing work and family commitments, and then block out a little segment of time for writing every day, preferably at the same time. Doesn't have to be. Just ink it in and that you're writing, and then put your book in the chair at the same time every day. It's a bit like if you want to take up running and you put your shoes on at the same time every day, eventually you are going to get out that door. Hey Smokey, say hello. Yeah. Same thing with writing. Put yourself into a habit of sitting in that seat and getting into the writing frame of mind, and then give yourself an easy win. Don't set yourself a target of writing thousands of words at a time. Say, if I sit in that chair and I write one paragraph 100 words, do 10 minutes, anything, however small, something really simple that you know you can do every day, then you've won for that day, and start building a winning streak. Then you can give yourself a stretch goal that says, yes, I've won when I've done 1,000 words, or I've won when I've done 10 minutes, but I'm going to stretch and see if I can do 5,000 words or a full hour, or whatever it's going to take, depending on your writing. If you unless you're dictating, you're not likely to do 5,000 words in an hour, just to clear that up. But give yourself the easy win and the stretch. Then once you've won so many days, you start to build up the winning streak, which it becomes a case of don't drop the ball, don't break the streak. It comes back to the Seinfeld episode of writing jokes. You sit down to write jokes every day and you mark it on the calendar, and eventually you get all those crosses and you start to see the lines build up, and you don't want to break it. Don't fall into the dieting fatality mentality. If you do break the streak, you just get back on and you start another. Don't let it get the white streak with no crosses get nearly as long as the red streak just because you missed one day. You get back in and you start again. And then we got the question about the main steps to follow when writing any book. I would say these are the first thing is to do some research and make sure that there's an audience for your book. So you would do that by looking at other books on the same subject. You would look at what popular keywords, popular book categories. If there is absolutely nothing that's even remotely similar to the book you want to write, then the chances are it's not commercial. If you're finding other books that have already been written of the type, then you have an audience that you can address and that you can market to. So then you want to plan an outline in as much or as little detail as is comfortable for you. Now, if you're the sort of person who it's all in your head and you want to get it out there, and you think you've got a really clear idea of where you're going with it before you start, don't want to do any written planning, then don't. Nobody's going to force you. I would advise you to, but nobody's going to force you. If on the other hand you're the sort of person who likes the snowflake method, where you start with your headings and then you put your next level of chapters in, and then your headings within your chapters and your sub chapters, and then they constantly going back and filling in the gaps until you actually end up with a skeleton outline where all you've got to do is write it out into full sentences and you have a draft. That's another way of doing it, but just find the way that's comfortable for you, so that what you do is get all of those thoughts out, and so that you've got the first draft down on paper. Then you want to self-edit with a checklist. Again, this is something I'll be providing you as we go along, but you can also do searches and look for self-editing checklists. And the reason I say don't just keep reading it back and changing and nitpicking with things here and there, use a list and use a find and replace, and if you find something wrong once, look through the whole document to see if you've made that same mistake in multiple places. That will save you time, and it will give you a consistent manuscript. It's in some ways it's almost worse to have a mistake made in one place and then it done right in another place, than if you've done it consistently wrong all the way through. That's in a lot of ways easier for people to read than something that's right in one place and wrong somewhere else. So checklists are your friend. From there, you want to be starting to think about beta readers and editors. Now, how many rounds of editing, how many pairs of eyes are on another manuscript before you publish? It's entirely up to you. I would say the more the better, but not everybody's comfortable with sharing before publication. I tend to think that's probably going to go against you and not necessarily going to do you any favours, because if you don't want to share your work with somebody before you publish, then you're possibly going to feel a little bit self-conscious after you've published and people are starting to look at it. It's always better to have more eyes, whether those are professional editors or friends and family. It's all down to what budget and what time you've got, and the friends and family that you have as well, of course. If you have friends who are teachers, who are English teachers and editors, then they're going to be more useful to you than friends who don't read books to start off with. But while you're going through that editing process, you're also going to be going through the process of the sales material and the book covers and starting to build the interior files, and then the whole publishing side of it, which is a technical side of it, and then you've got the launching and promoting. So those are the big picture steps that you'd be looking at with every book. So I hope that helped everybody. And I'll see you next week.